If Trump tried to take Greenland, what would the Nordic country do? These four specifically, especially the two on the right with the Gripen, and because Denmark owned Greenland. Yes.
Gripen is good. Sap is good. Let's go.
Yeah. When did Greenland? Yeah, because Thailand. There's Gripen around here sometime in the sky. We live in northeast Thailand.
No, it never fly here.
Oh, the F-15?
16.
F-16. Oh, okay. But Thailand is one of the first to buy the Gripen, right?
Yeah, one of the first of you are using it.
Okay. Well, by Norway on Total YouTube channel, I think it's an AI channel, but the narrator has such a cool voice that I wanted to react to it. Yes. Because I said controversial thing in our last video comment. I said that I don't think that the Nordic country will fight Trump. I think they will make a deal, but if there's no deal, Trump will take it by force. And I think that Europe will cave in, unfortunately. Maybe I'm wrong. So let's see if I'm wrong.
Picture this. Okay. You wake up, check your phone, and the headline hits like a flash of Arctic wind. Trump says the US has to have Greenland. Not just a passing comment. Not just a joke. The kind of statement that instantly makes people in Copenhagen sit up, makes Nuuk go quiet, and makes every Nordic capital start calling each other. And the question you and I are really asking...
I think only France and the UK have nuke.
What is nuke?
Nuclear bombs.
Really?
Yes. Only the UK and France have it.
Why do you have it?
To protect themselves. You know Russia have so many nuke that if America send nuke to Russia and destroy Russia, there's a system in Russia where the nuclear bomb will be detonated by AI and sent to America, even if Russia is decimated.
The agreement will end on the 5th February.
The agreement of what?
The nuke.
Between who nuke?
Between the world.
Oh, really?
It will end soon.
I know that.
Then you're going to be able to use it.
But I know that there's some country like Germany that have the US have their own nuke in Germany. Like there's some European country that currently are protecting some of the nuke that America made because America don't have enough space to put their own nuke.
Oh, actually, and I also heard the other day, Iran can shut down the Starlink in their country.
Really? The Musk thing? Elon Musk?
Yeah.
Why would they shut? Oh, they shut down the internet. Yeah.
Because Elon Musk says like no one can shut down Starlink. So that the first time.
And now Trump is like, oh, the people of Iran need to fight their government. And in America, if you do that, you go to jail. Like, come on, Trump, come on.
King is simple but explosive.
See?
If Trump tries to take Greenland, what would the Nordics do? Because Greenland is not just a frozen island on a map. It's the Arctic's front door. It's a giant piece of real estate that sits between North America and Europe. It's where modern warning systems and defense planning look north, because that's where the world is changing fastest. But before we even talk about warships, jets, or NATO meetings, we need to be honest about something. When a politician says take Greenland, that can mean three completely different things. One, a deal, a purchase-style offer with money, investment, and promises. Two, pressure. Economic, political, and diplomatic pressure designed to push Denmark and Greenland into a corner. Or three, the darkest version, a threat. The kind of language...
I don't think that he's going to do three. I think he's going to try one. It's not going to work, and then it's going to put a lot of pressure, and Denmark will have no choice but to make a deal, and then Europe will say, oh, that's a good deal. And then America will say, oh, it's a good deal. And then everyone will claim to be happy, but the people in Europe, the people will be mad. But the government will claim as if it's okay.
Oh.
Yes, I think two is going to happen.
That implies force or hints that international rules don't matter. And here's the key. The Nordics would respond differently to each one. So let's break this down like adults, not like internet memes. First, what is Greenland, legally and politically? Greenland is self-governing, but it's still part of the Kingdom of Denmark. That means Greenland has its own parliament and government that control a lot of everyday...
Funny? There's a lot of US presence already in Greenland. Like military, or I don't remember. There's already like US presence on Greenland.
Oh.
And when I was young, in the 90s, Greenland was not part of Denmark. I think it was sold to Denmark when I was very young. Like, it's so, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like
decisions inside Greenland. But Denmark still carries big responsibilities, especially in foreign affairs and defense, under the current arrangement. And here's the part that stops the whole just buy it fantasy in its tracks. Greenland is not a piece of property that can be sold like land in a real estate
they
deal.
don't want to
Greenland is a
sold.
people, and under the legal framework Greenland operates under, Greenlanders are recognized as having the right to self-determination.
Yeah.
In plain English, that means Greenland's future isn't decided by a handshake between leaders in Washington and Copenhagen. Greenlanders are not just spectators in their own story. So if Trump pushes this idea again, the first wall he hits is not a wall of ice. It's a wall of legitimacy. Now, let's answer the next question. Why would the US want Greenland so badly? It's geography. Look at the globe, not a flat map. The Arctic is the shortest path between parts of North America, Europe, and Russia. In the Cold War, Greenland...
Trump is afraid that Russia and China will buy Greenland, right?
Yeah.
But what he doesn't understand is that if you go to Canada, right, and you go a little bit north, there's Russia. There's Russia that connects Canada. So what is he afraid of? It's like he doesn't know that like Russia are already like quite close to them, like with the passage, right? Russia and Canada, they're almost connected. There's like a passage that is not connected, but it's almost.
But it's very easy for him.
But it's like,
Turn for everything there.
yeah, I know Greenland is quite big, though. I think that's what it is, right?
mattered because of early warning and strategic positioning. And today, Greenland still matters for the same reason, only the technology has evolved. The US already has a long-standing military presence in Greenland, including a major installation known today as Patuxent Space Base. That base has been tied to missile warning and space surveillance. So when US leaders talk about Greenland,
what Trump wants to do, it's mostly like being like he wants to transform Greenland into like a military like place where he doesn't allow any outsider to have any boat or plane at distance.
Yeah.
Like
they often frame it as national security.
Yeah.
Not minerals, not tourism, not vibes. And from the Nordic perspective, that's exactly why the conversation is dangerous. Because national security arguments can quickly turn into, we deserve it, and we need it, and we'll do what we have to do. So if Trump tries to push the issue, what does Denmark do first? Denmark moves fast, and Denmark moves publicly. Copenhagen's first play is not military, it's moral and legal. Denmark would draw a bright, unmistakable red line. Greenland's sovereignty and Greenland's people are not up for negotiation by outsiders. Denmark would repeat the language of international law and alliance trust, because Denmark is not just a small country here. Denmark is a NATO member, and in NATO, allies don't threaten allies for territory. Then Denmark would do...
The US is also a NATO member.
True.
You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, Russia went after Ukraine and everything because Ukraine was not part of NATO." So after that, Finland hurry up and became part of NATO. But if the US now do this and it worked, it means that being part of NATO doesn't work. Basically, if the US do what they say they're gonna do, NATO is dead. Because the whole pack of NATO is you don't go after another NATO country, like right. So if Russia went after, I don't know, Poland. Now you go after NATO, but going after Ukraine is not part of NATO. That's why, like, what happened to Ukraine, which is still happening, because Ukraine was never part of NATO, and because Russia don't want Ukraine to be part of NATO, NATO is doing nothing. But this is a big test, because now they're going after, the US want to go after NATO. This is a huge test. NATO either will fail here and completely, like, vanish, or it will be either very strong after that.
Something very important. It would lock arms with Greenland's leadership. Because the worst nightmare for Denmark and Greenland is being divided. If Washington can create a wedge, if it can suggest Denmark is blocking Greenland's prosperity, or Greenland would be richer with us, or Denmark is the colonial middleman, then the pressure campaign gets stronger. So Denmark's
I don't think this is going to work. Because I don't know if you saw the interview in Greenland.
No.
Like yesterday, the day before, and everyone in Greenland is like, no, forget it. We don't want the US to anything to do with the US.
Of course.
So what he's saying is like, maybe the US will try to give them gift and give them like good speech that like, oh, we can make your life better. And Greenland is like, we're fine already. We don't need any help.
True.
We don't even need Denmark. We're fine. Leave us alone. So I don't think this point is going to work at all, you know?
Second play is unity. Denmark and Greenland would appear together, speak together, and make it crystal clear. Greenland's future belongs to Greenlanders, and no foreign leader gets to rewrite that. After that, Denmark would go to the rooms where pressure becomes real. NATO rooms, European rooms, diplomatic rooms, and Denmark would force the question that makes every ally uncomfortable. If one NATO country starts talking like it can take territory from another, what does NATO even mean? Because this isn't just about Greenland. It's about whether the West still believes in the rules it tells the rest of the world to follow. Now, that's Denmark.
I'm sorry, but the US, they seem to be the only country that can literally like go around the rules for everything.
Yeah.
Right?
I really hate this. Yeah. The other day he said he loved peace. He won the Nobel
He won the Nobel
But
Prize.
then 8 days after, he just attacked and captured the other people to take the oil, whatever.
Yes, that Trump guy was so egomaniac. He lost the Nobel Peace Prize, right? And then FIFA. Do you remember? Because FIFA World Cup is going to be in America, Canada, and Mexico. They invited the president of the women of Mexico, Canada, and the US to the FIFA World Cup to speak. And that guy, the president of FIFA, was so kind toward Trump. He was like on his knees, you know? It was like so like, and it was so awkward in all the football players were there. It was so awkward. It was like, why? Like a lot of European country there. Why everyone is like so like this with Trump? It felt like I was watching like a parody TV show or something when I saw this.
You're not going to be able to go to the US.
What?
Because they will check your social media. I think you talk about him too much.
Maybe. Yeah.
But the title of this video asks, what would the Nordics do? So let's talk about the wider Nordic response. Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Iceland, and what power they actually have. The Nordics don't think like empires. They think like systems. They don't usually respond with loud threats. They respond with coordinated pressure, legitimacy, and strategic positioning that makes the cost of aggression unbearable. So here's what the Nordic response looks like, in real terms. First, the Nordics would unify their message instantly. If there's one thing that makes Nordic governments move like one body, it's a threat to sovereignty, rules-based order, and stability in their region.
Don't be like Trump.
You'd see coordinated statements, shared language, the same moral framing, the same emphasis on international law, self-determination, and alliance trust. Not because they're trying to gang up on the US, but because they understand something vital. If you let one big power rewrite the rules once, you've taught everyone that the rules are optional. Second, the Nordics would use NATO as a pressure chamber.
It's true, but you need to understand one thing here. I looked before the reaction. In Sweden, the prime minister can be elected like 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. There's no limit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm sure that in a lot of European countries, there's no limit. In America, a president can only be president 2 times, which is 8 years. So Trump was president in 2016. He lost in 2020. He won again in 2024, which means that in 2028, in like 2 years and a half, it will be gone. So Trump right now, he's seen the clock, right? So he's going to try to do a lot of things because in the US, in November 2026, the midterm is coming. And the midterm is going to be very bad for him, right? But if Greenland end up making a deal with Denmark that doesn't include violence, I think his popularity for 2028 will go up. It's going to help maybe his party get elected again. Trump is doing everything, having 2028 in mind, and it makes him dangerous because he's not going to be the president after that.
Yeah.
Nothing will be his fault anymore after that.
Yeah.
Norway has been dealing with high North security realities for decades. Finland and Sweden, now inside NATO, would have a direct voice in alliance discussions that matter. Iceland, sitting in the North Atlantic, plays a key role in the strategic geography of the region. So if Washington starts making Greenland a sovereignty fight, the Nordics would not negotiate it like a normal issue. They would raise it as an alliance integrity crisis. They would demand clarity. They would demand guarantees. They would force the US to either pull back or own the damage publicly. Third, they would move into the Arctic security space carefully, but visibly. This is where people misunderstand the Nordics. They are not trying to start wars, but they are very good at sending signals. If rhetoric becomes threatening, Denmark increases its defense posture in and around Greenland in ways that are legal, normal.
Yes, I understand what he's saying. Be smart in your approach. The problem is that you're dealing with Trump, which is very erratic. He took the president of Venezuela in 30 minutes. you know?
But it's different from me actually.
Yeah.
Because in Venezuela, they really don't like the president, whatever thing. So it make it easy for him to he had like basically he had legal whatever thing to capture that because
Yeah,
we
but
are talking about the drug thing like that. So
yeah,
it's fine for
it's
that.
true, but like let's say that Trump doesn't get a deal with Denmark, and then Europe make fun of him, like publicly in all the news stations, they make fun of Trump for failing to make a deal, right? Him that is known to be like a great businessman failed to make a deal. Trump ego is so big, he might just turn around and in a matter of a week decide to literally take Greenland and try to fight like any president that is there.
So
And then Sweden will need to react super quickly, and it's like...
Are you guys going to fight him back then?
I don't think they will. I think it's mostly going to be like economic sanction and things like this, and it's going to be a little bit like what happened to Russia after Ukraine.
One thing, if there's a World War III, like if Google is still going to be here because I'm not going to have a job. So what should I do?
If there's World War III, you're going to have a job.
I'm not going to have a job. Is Google still going to exist?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a world war like the first and the second one. There's internet right now, and there's fight between country, but to involve China and USA, first of all, without China, there's no World War III. Because there's nobody strong enough to fight the US as in a war. So without China, there's no World War III, and China is a country that uses violence as the last resource.
Man, China weapon is weak.
No, China is strong. And also... Remember one thing is that Trump 2028 is gone.
Yeah.
Whoever is going to replace him is never going to be as crazy as him. I think people had enough of Trump, and it was fun.
Make the world crazy just because of one man.
The person that's going to come after Trump is never going to be like Trump. Like J.D. Vance, is a very small man in comparison to Trump. Like the impulsivity that come out of him, you know.
And defensible. Norway strengthens its own high north monitoring. Sweden and Finland coordinate more closely on regional security. Iceland leans into North Atlantic coordination. Think of it like this. They don't need to point a gun at you to tell you they're serious. They just need to make sure everyone sees the door is locked and that the room is full of witnesses. And that word, witnesses, matters because the Nordics care deeply about legitimacy. Now let's walk through the 3 scenarios I mentioned earlier, because this is where the answer becomes real. Scenario 1. Trump tries the deal.
It's not gonna work.
He frames it like business. We'll invest, we'll build, we'll offer security, we'll offer economic opportunity, we'll make Greenland rich. In that scenario, Denmark and the Nordics respond with a calm but firm no. They don't insult the offer. They don't overreact. They simply repeat the fundamental truth.
Yeah, but Trump ego is so big that even if he say no, then there's people on social media in the US that will make fun of Trump. So Trump is gonna, even if it's not Sweden and Denmark that insult Trump, Trump will be insulted on social media and he will react to the rejection. Even if Sweden and Denmark are very kind about it, you know?
Greenland cannot be purchased without Greenlanders deciding their own future.
That's a problem. That's why.
And here's the twist. Greenland itself becomes the most important voice. Because if Greenland's government says we are not for sale, that's the end of the legitimacy argument. So the Nordic play here is to amplify Greenland's voice, not replace it. You would likely see Denmark and Nordic partners support more investment, more development, more local empowerment on Greenland's terms, so that no foreign leader can claim you have no choice but us. In other words, the Nordics would respond to a deal with something smarter than anger. They'd respond with options. Scenario 2. Trump uses pressure. This is where things get sharper. Pressure can look like trade threats, diplomatic bullying, military messaging, or attempts to bypass Denmark and speak over them directly. If that happens, Denmark reacts in multiple directions at once.
This is what's going to happen. And we're going to have to see which way it's going after.
Diplomatically, Denmark raises the cost in public, not in whispers. Denmark does not like being humiliated, and Denmark will not quietly accept coercion. Politically, Denmark pulls European support closer, because even if Greenland is not inside the European Union in the same way Denmark is, Europe still understands what this represents, a threat to norms. And strategically, Denmark tightens the framework of cooperation. This is where a lot of people miss the point. The US already gets major strategic benefits from Greenland through existing cooperation. If Washington turns the relationship into a sovereignty fight, Denmark can make cooperation more complicated, more politically painful, and more conditional, without doing anything illegal or reckless. And the Nordics would back Denmark because pressure campaigns against one Nordic country are viewed as a regional threat, not a private disagreement. Scenario 3. Trump's rhetoric crosses into threat territory. This is the scenario that changes everything. Because the moment a leader implies force against a territory tied to a NATO ally, you're no longer in diplomatic theater. You're in an alliance crisis. And in that moment, the Nordic response becomes less about statements and more about building a wall made of consequences. Not military consequences first. Political consequences, alliance consequences, international consequences. The Nordics would push for immediate public clarity. Does the US respect Greenland's sovereignty, Denmark's sovereignty, and the principle of self-determination? Yes or no?
No.
They would also raise the issue in every relevant forum. They would use every diplomatic lever to make the world watch. Because a threat thrives in silence. The Nordics kill it with sunlight.
The problem is that China is always going to be neutral. They don't want to get involved. So Europe is going to be alone by themselves. They're going to need to figure this out. Canada is not going to help Europe, even though they're on their side, because they're a neighbor to the US. They don't want to piss off the US. They're going to remain neutral as they always do. Australia is going to stay neutral. Asia is going to stay neutral. It's going to be Europe that's going to need to defend and figure it out by themselves.
You might be wondering something important. If the US is stronger than Denmark and the Nordics, does any of this matter? Yes, it matters a lot. Because strength isn't just tanks and ships. Strength is legitimacy, alliances, and global trust. If the US tried to seize Greenland by force, it would trigger a political earthquake that would be catastrophic for America's alliances. It would empower America's rivals. It would fracture NATO's moral foundation. And it would force every smaller country to ask, if even allies aren't safe from coercion, who is? That's why the most realistic battleground here is not an invasion. It's influence, pressure, and narrative. And that's exactly the kind of battleground the Nordics are built to fight in. They are disciplined, they are coordinated, they are patient, they understand.
I also read that a lot of the Trump military, like officer high-ranking, they don't really want to take Greenland. They don't really see the point. So I think Trump is having a problem from the inside also. I think the point 3 is going to be hard, but the point 2 of a lot of pressure is going to definitely come.
Games. But there's one more layer to this story, and it's the layer most people ignore. Greenland itself has its own long-term question: independence. Greenland's path has been moving steadily toward more autonomy over many decades, and the right to choose its own future sits at the heart of how its self-government is understood. So when a powerful foreign leader says, we should have Greenland, it doesn't just threaten Denmark. It forces Greenland's independence conversation into a global spotlight. And here's what could happen. If Greenlanders feel pressured, many may become even more protective of their identity and sovereignty. Outside pressure often doesn't create surrender. It creates resistance. At the same time, if Greenland sees major powers treating it like a strategic prize, Greenland may push harder for a future where it controls more of its own foreign policy and security decisions, whatever form that takes. So ironically, the loudest voices calling for Greenland can accelerate the very thing they can't control: Greenland's own choices. And that's why the smartest Nordic strategy is to keep one principle at the center of everything. Greenland is not an object. Greenland is a people. Now let's bring it all together. If Trump tries to take Greenland through a deal, the Nordics respond with law, unity, and Greenland's voice. If he tries through pressure, they respond with coordinated diplomatic pushback, alliance pressure, and a tightening of cooperation rules that raises the cost. If he crosses into threat territory, they turn it into an alliance credibility crisis and make the political consequences impossible to hide.
I mean, look, it's all good talk, but look what happened in Ukraine, right? The conflict between Ukraine and Russia is still going on.
Yeah, that was I really don't like. The war that never ends.
Like,
I really hate this.
All of these war with Gaza, with Ukraine, with in South Sudan, in Sudan, a lot of these war, even though there's a lot of good talk about doing sanctions and everything, The sanction in Russia, did they work?
No.
Russia are still going after Ukraine. It's still not over. We don't know when it's gonna finish. It's all a freaking game for America, and Europe is not really doing that much to help Ukraine.
Yes. It's like a game. It never ends, but people in the border who suffer, they are suffering a lot.
And imagine, this is for Ukraine, and Ukraine can defend themselves. Greenland is not really a country. They don't have a military. So the help will need automatically to come from the outside, but not just in giving them weapon. The people that are Swedish and Danish will need to step in, not just give the people the weapon to the Greenlander and say fight. Yeah,
even you have
that's what I mean.
And through all of
that's
it,
what I mean.
The Nordics aim
It's
for
different.
one outcome: stop the crisis without breaking the alliance. Because even if Denmark and the Nordics are furious, they also understand the big picture. They don't want an Arctic meltdown. They don't want NATO collapsing from the inside. They want stability, rules, and predictability, because that's how small and mid-sized countries survive in a world of giants. So the real answer to our title is this: the Nordics wouldn't panic. They wouldn't bluff. They would lock the doors with law, unity, and international pressure, and they would make sure the whole world is watching. Now I want to ask you something. Do you think Greenland should push faster toward full independence, so no outside power can ever treat it like a bargaining chip?
If you mean becoming a country, no. Because once you become a country, in a way, you're easier to invade than if you're still part of Denmark. I don't know if my logic makes sense, but that's how I see this.
Or do you think Greenland is safer staying tied to Denmark inside a strong alliance network?
Yeah, I think it
Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I read them. And if you want the next video breaking...
Because remember that there's
I remember
a lot of Latino voted for Trump.
He said that he gonna go change the system to make the new country. Thing like that.
Sure.
Oh, to bring, what is it? Dictatorship out.
There's no dictatorship in Mexico.
No, another country, Nicaragua, thing like that.
Okay, let's see. Well, interesting video. Tell us what you think below.